Alright, greetings. So turn up the video speed. So this is kind of a precursor conversation where we get in the meat of the subject. An age and a half ago, back during the first stage of progress, I was talking to a guy outside the local beer store, and it's fresh off work, and he says, brevity is the soul of wit. And I said, well, yeah, if you're only dealing with nitwits. I'm like, are you a nitwit? And he's like, yeah, but come on, man, let's be real about it. I mean, if the conversation's over 15 seconds, people are wondering where it's going. If it gets over 30 seconds, they're wondering when it'll end. And if it gets over a minute, they're pissed off and annoyed that it hasn't ended. Because everybody's got things to do, time to do this. So everything has to be a one-liner and a slogan. And I've heard people, there's a truth to that. And the reason generally is because a lot of people manage their time horrifically. They do things in the reverse way they should. And it's like, oh, so you're going to buy all the expensive shit on credit when you're young instead of living cheap and investing while you're young so you could buy everything cash when you're older, having your money make you money. And then past that, even if people do things right, well, let's just be honest. Most people, they look at their time fairly simply as the time that I'm spending doing this is time that I'm not spending on me. I mean, solipsism. Most people are solipsistic as fuck. So, you have these situations where the conversations are rendered down to quick little slogans and things. And you're like, how did we get from once upon a time we could have a conversation? Now, what's funny about even the conversations is that maybe it's an appeal to authority and normacy bias a lot of times. Well, these people, the approved people, so we'll listen to them. Versus actually having real conversation between people. How did we get from where we were back in the day to where we are today? So this is where we get into the meat of it. I'm going to call it the meme-cation of society, the slowing of the attention spans and the dumbing down of just society. Like, you just look at it, honestly, the kind of retardation of society to some degree. Yeah, this is Freedom Phil. Like and subscribe. Let's get into it. And turn up the video speed. The reason I say that is because I can say things at whatever I'm speeding. You can listen to it far faster. That's what I do. If I'm listening to videos, I'll listen to, 2 times the speed. If I'm listening to audiobooks, 3 times the speed. Why? Because instead of 1 hour being 1 hour, I got 3 hours. Just saying. More data for the moment. So I get that a lot of things have changed. I remember back when people had full-bodied conversations for an answer. And maybe that's because to some degree, sometimes we had the time or it was a captured audience. Like if you were religious and you're listening to someone give their particular sermon of whatever faith or whatnot. Politicians, of course, we expected full-bodied answers from them. Man, we are a long ways from that these days. We are so far from that. I got to be honest. Sometimes I look at society and I feel like that movie Idiocracy was supposed to be a movie, not a future prediction of society, because we already are. We're already here. Just like the joke that it's kind of true, though. 1984 was a warning, not a manual. And yeah. But there was different things that changed, and you could say the access to data plus the access to time, because like I've said many times, most people do their lives in the wrong direction. They should be living minimalistically and cheap and investing when they're young so their money can make the money instead of buying stuff on credit so they can pay other people money their whole lives. And I actually need to do that video. How many houses could you buy if you actually just paid cash for bought a cheap house for a overpriced house? How many times over the years did you just lose an interest? Do that later. But I look at the situation, and a good example that I could think of that's maybe a bit obscure was this thing called the Rage Reader. And then what killed it? It was, memes killed it. And like, what was the Rage Reader? You guys remember Sunday morning comics? Where you'd look at the different panels and there'd be a bunch of different things and they'd have words. Same thing, basically, except for they used, like, you remember the troll face that everybody's seen at some point? Yeah, the troll face is, or Reddit troll face, whatever you want to call it. That was one of them, and there was all these different pictures, and then people put a bunch of panels. And there were a lot of them that were really funny at the time. Some of them are still funny. I always recommend the Rage Reader Dunkin' Donuts Change Rage. It was great. It was great. It was like this guy goes in there and he gives a little extra change so he can get nothing but quarters back. Doesn't want to get a mishmash of useless coins. And the person behind the counter, the ghetto, sub IQ individual, is all like, no, man, you gave me too much. You're trying to scam me. I'm going to call my manager. And the manager, equally ghetto manager, shows up. Yeah, dude, he's totally trying to scam us. I saw this on TV the other day. And it's like, yeah, we really are there. Like, and if you don't believe me, give a little extra change so you get nothing but quarters back and watch a lot of people look at you like you're a friggin' idiot. You gave me too much, bro. You know, the machines do all the work. Kind of the joke of doom. We will not make machines that do the thinking of men. It's like, no, we're way past that. We're going down so fast that now the subpar machines are actually smarter than the way subpar humans. Just saying. But how do we get this way? And I think a lot of it comes down to this, the lessening attention span. And for anybody that realizes these type of people that I'm talking about, they will never make it through one of my videos, even if the speed was turned up, because they're like, I have to sit here for more than a second. Oh, God, this isn't about me. Solid system to the max. So, yeah, because the comics took too many pictures, most people's attention spans wouldn't last that long these days. But back in the day, because everybody had limited data except for me, like, well, how did you have unlimited data? You know how everybody, you could choose a phone, you could get a free phone or just keep your unlimited data. You'd have to change your plan. Your plan would be some horrible level of data that, like, you'd have to basically, they were setting it up to where you'd have to constantly buy more data. And I'm like, screw that. I like online radio. I like listening to my hometown radio station anywhere in the world. Or like, I want to listen to weird music from some other country right where I'm sitting in the woods right here. Like, I'm looking at some tower over on the neighboring mountain. I've got full bars back when 3G was the thing. Oh, 3G better than 2G. Way before 4G. And I'm out there, I'm like, yep, loving life. And I can tell you right now, watching videos and all that stuff has not changed that much. It has not. They just require more for the same stuff you used to get for far less. So most people did the trade, and therefore most people were in this environment where you had to have a limited amount of data, and that's where the rage reader type of thing, the comic thing, was good. This is also where Facebook was good, because picture, statement, and then people have a conversation, and people have a quick conversation about it. You know, like it could be a few sentences, maybe segmented up, so 2 little paragraphs. People were capable of that. Now, you always had the subhumans, and we're like, oh, if it's more than a sentence, like one-liners. And I don't know if people say, once again, brevity is the soul of wit for nitwits. I'll watch a Chappelle show sometime. He might say a joke in the early thing, but that joke might be the setup joke for the later joke. And this is also the way salesmen work, the way politicians work. Like when they're having a real conversation about something, there'll be some long thought out reasons. You say, well, how did it start? When did it start getting away from this? Honestly, the pinpoint, it's kind of hard, but one example I heard that made a lot of sense was when cable news became a thing. Not so much when it was just CNN and some other crap. When Fox News stepped onto the scene, it became shock jock situations. And one could argue the kind of godfather of the AM bands back then. I know a lot of you hate him, but let's be honest, give the man credit where it's due. He was good at his craft. Rush Limbaugh. Now, he was a long-form thinker, but there was shock jock to it. There was funny statements and, music occasionally and a position to point. So it was more, it was like streams. And this is what's funny. People will want everything in like just boom, 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 like that. Although they'll listen to a stream where it's like fishing. Fishing streams like fishing in the sense that you're wasting a lot of time. But when that hit comes, you're it's on. The endorphins are kicking in. You're like, yeah, fish. And it's funny, and this is the same way a Chappelle show works. So once this whole shock jock thing came into the media, you could see that a normal conversation, like you go back, look at like even if you hate them, you could pick your leftist, intellectual or something if you want to. But example of Milton Friedman, Thomas Sowell. Listen to their conversations and how it's a full-bodied statement. And when you walk away from listening to these individuals, generally, assuming you're not, avidly opposed to what they're saying. So once again, pick the person you like. You actually have an understanding of the situation. It's not just a slogan and a tagline, because taglines and slowline, brevity is the soul of wit, is for nitwits. That's what we had, and we slowly have gotten a long ways from that. I mean, look at our politics these days. I think Idiocracy sometimes it's a funny movie, but sometimes it feels like a prediction these days more than a movie. And so when you look at that, when you think about that for a second, And you see the dumbing down of things, the shortening of things. Like in that limited data environment that we were living in way back in the day. Yeah, memes were great. They came onto the scene. You have the picture, you have the slogan, and people can look at it and within seconds. The fewer words, the better. The more compact you can get the message across, the better. And then it just, some things go viral. And these days, I'd say what goes viral is what's allowed to go viral. Let's be honest about that. You know, and sometimes I see some of these old content producers and I'm looking at what they're producing and I'm like, yeah, it's good, but is it great? Yeah, I've seen people that are smaller producers that produce decent stuff and they're like, you're being artificially suppressed. We'll allow these people to exist in the environment to look like it's there, but these other people, unless you get the shout out, unless you get the conversation, ain't nobody paying attention. And why? Because algorithmically suppressed. And part of this has to do with the whole payment shit. You know, once you become big enough to be a partner, then they might have to pay you. And I think that's part of the problem. But that's actually, by the way, so people that don't know this, a little history lesson. That's how YouTube won the war. They were the first one to pay. There were a lot of other platforms out there. In fact, Dailymotion still exists, but YouTube was paying money. And so that's why YouTube won that war. But as things start going down to like quick little like dopamine rush slogans on pictures, we also see that in society. Like, and a lot of, we go back to the whole shock jock thing. Look at our politics. And I got to be honest, look, liberals, you made this way worse. Like, so you have the evil orange man. Oh, scary. Um, and you ask questions that have nothing to do, like no rational, regular conversation, because you're not aiming for anything that's actually going to enlighten the people. You're just aiming for blood. So, well, as people would refer to it, there was an era where there was internet blood sports, and that there was like debate me, bro. And what's funny about it is that some guys, like, I don't know, this guy's kind of obscure, but Undead Chronic, he'll have a decent debate. And if you're reasonable with the guy, he will be reasonable with you. But if you come in there trying to, you know, to overpower him, then he will just totally fucking blood sport you. But that's how we started doing things in the last number of years. We expect our intellectuals to be, you know, well thought out and give you a functional solution to the problem. And now it's just, they make the other person look stupid. And that's who we're voting for. And I don't care which side you're for. You know, you go back in the day, hope and change. That was a great meme, great slogan, great tagline, really was. Because, you know, people were tired of the whole, you know, my daddy was the president, war guy. They were sick of that guy. So Magic Man comes along, says hope and change. And people could grasp behind that. But then down the road, the question was, 8 years later, you still hoping for change? Or are you begging for it? And things went downhill. And so what we could say is like that whole blood sports, you know, like in your face mentality, that became our presidential thing. It went from being, hey, here's the intelligent plan. And the problem is, you know, here's the truth of it. If you want to have an intelligent conversation about what your plans are, you actually have to do it on your own. You can't have a bunch of stupid questions from a bunch of people that hate you or are paid to hate you. You have to put out your positions, explain them. You actually have to have a little entertainment along that to keep people watching. And then they get out there. But when it comes to like a debate, it's just about who can make the other guy look like a friggin' idiot. And sadly enough, the popularity contest, that's how we choose our presidents. That's really, we're not choosing like, and there, I got to be honest, there is a certain level of IQ where knowing how to win the battle is intelligent, but we're not picking geniuses. We're not picking people that are saving the world, building better technology. We're picking people that convince dumb people. Yeah, go with me, because I'm funnier. I don't care which side you're for. Like cackle laugh lady from the last election and the orange guy again. That was our two options. Wow. So between the cons and the craps, this is the best you can do. But this is the best you deserve, to be honest. Because this is how people interact with society. We went from having a world where we think about things. Like we can sit down and actually think. Like, I don't think Martin Luther King would exist in this era. I don't think Malcolm X would either. Milton Friedman, Thomas Sowell. You know, Thomas Sowell still exists, but like No, like even the books, the well thought out things, like thank God for audiobooks, by the way, and the fact you can turn up the speed. That way, people that normally would never read a book to begin with, oh, sure, they can read, but they can only stand to read one sentence. If you got an audiobook, at least these morons can listen to it. And maybe if they're receptive, they actually hear the words. Maybe they sit back, listen to it, digest it a little in the brain, like they take their dog for a walk, listen to a book while they're doing it. You know, that's maybe the future of actual thought, where you're going to have to be, because people have set themselves up in the wrong direction generally economically when they're young. You're buying all the stuff on credit you can't afford, and then you're basically working to pay it off. You're buying houses, cars, and crap you can't afford instead of living as cheap as possible when you're young so you can invest and be good, well set up. They're going in the wrong direction, so they have to steal back time from society in some way. And then like say you're not just gardening, but you're listening to some online tutorial on how to, or some history of something or other. If you happen to enjoy that, like say you're into the Roman Empire, or just history of mankind, like hey, this was the Syrian Empire or whatever. Or you're listening to your favorite podcaster while you're doing dishes. And that's the future of long. You're going to have to make it to where people can get it without having to sit there. And that's one of the things I don't like about videos in general. If I have to sit there watching something, that's just time. And this is like the same thing with books. So I'm even kind of a victim. Like, am I going to sit down and read a book when I can play a video game and listen to that same book over my headphones? Just saying. So yeah, we are lesser than we used to be. And funny thing about that, just as a closing thought, because I don't need to drag this out too long. You go to the comment sections and you see these people, and this is where I look at it and I'm like, well, if these are real people, if maybe it's not real people, it's just the same person with multiple accounts, and they just are like, it's this, it's that, it's all different people. It's like, oh, you're all the same person, all leaving the same comment, or you're robots. Well, I got to be honest, when most of the people making comments, there's no difference between that and this stupid AI chat bot. Well, the chatbots, and like, by the way, when the chatbot can actually give you a better, more realistic answer than most people can, because they're just like, yeah, bro, yeah, bro, yeah, bro. Dopamine rush, dopamine rush, dopamine rush. I think, yeah, don't worry about the rise of the machines. I mean, maybe you should. If you're an idiot, you should be worried about the rise of the machines. But the dumbing down of society is definitely aiding the rise of the machines. And like, yeah, the whole like, look, let's be honest, how much of our sci-fi and the fear of the machine rise comes from like the whole people being put out of their job at like, I was a man at a Ford plant that put a bolt on a car for 8 hours a day, for 20, 30 years, and they took my job away. Like, wow, talk about a fulfilling life. Yeah, that fear comes from that loss of a job. And then thinking machines and all that. Well, I'm telling you right now, as the more meme-ification of society has become a normal thing, we're already there. We're definitely already there. And what can you do about it? Well, life be the way it is. What are you gonna do? So it's Freedom Phil. I've said my piece on this. Like and subscribe, turn up the video speed. And y'all have a good day, man. Take it easy.